Welcome back to the Making International in Korea video series. In this video, I'll be explaining to you the colonization and decolonization with the different aspects. Let me first touch upon how the colonization and decolonization apply to Korea. So first, we all touch upon the effect of treaties related to Japan's annexation of Korea. Korea concluded its first modern treaty called the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with Japan in 1876. Since then, Japan concluded a number of treaties with Korea until the treaty annexing Korea in 1910 was signed. In particular, a series of treaties concluded starting from the 1904 are directly concerned with Japan's annexation of Korea. There remains a rancorous debate of the effect of such treaties among the scholars of Korea and in Japan. The treaties leading to Japan's annexation of Korea can be summarized as follows. The first, the Korea-Japan Protocol was signed on February 23, 1904. This protocol set forth a wide range of rights and obligations, including Japan's right to take necessary measures in case Korea is at risk, Korea's obligation to cooperate in such cases, and Korea's duty not to conclude a treaty with a third country in contrary to the purpose of this protocol. It is argued that this protocol is void on the ground of the cohesion because 5 Japanese battalions were stationed throughout Korea, they consequently putting Korea under military occupation. Other grounds for invalidating treaty are discussed, such as the procedural defects due to the absence of negotiation by the competent authority, Japan's unilateral intention to conclude the treaty, and the fact that the original text was drawn up after signing the treaty. Second, the agreement inviting foreign advisor between Korea and Japan was signed the August 22nd in 1904. This agreement required Korea to invite Japanese advisors to administer Korea's financial and foreign affairs. It further required Korea to consult with Japan before concluding treaties with foreign countries or granting concessions to foreigners. In the same way as the Korea-Japan Protocol of 1904 was signed, this agreement lacked the required procedure, such as negotiation by the appointed representatives, and it was unilaterally decided by Japan. Not only the original copy of this agreement is not in existence, but also the full text of the agreement was added after the signing date and subsequently promulgated thereafter. Initially, it was signed as a memorandum, which did not include any delegation representing each government, but later it was changed to the form of an agreement. For the reason of this procedural defect, it is claimed that this agreement is void as well. So the Treaty of 1905 between Korea and Japan, by which Japan gained protectorate over Korea, was signed on November 17, 1905. The treaty deprived Korea of its diplomatic sovereignty by allowing Japan, through its Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to have control over the external relations and affairs of Korea. This treaty was concluded while heavily armed Japanese troops were placed throughout Seoul, surrounding Korean Imperial Palace, and the representative Korean government was threatened to sign the treaty. For this reason, it is argued that this treaty is void on the ground of cohesion because its conclusion has been procured by the threats or the use of force. Furthermore, there are more grounds for claiming invalidity of this treaty such as follows. Lack of the title of the treaty. Inappropriately simplified form, considering that it deals with the handover of the diplomatic sovereignty. Lack of full powers of the Korea's representative, lack of ratification, forced signing, and sealing. First new treaty between Korea and Japan was signed on July 24, 1907. It basically threatened the position of Japanese Resident General by requiring the Resident General's instruction on improving administration, as well as the approval of enactment or important the administrative measures, and prohibiting foreign missionaries without the consent of Resident General. This treaty was signed under the circumstances where a mixed bridge was dispatched as a backup force for the Japanese-Korean army. It is argued that this treaty is void because it was signed by the representative without being given the full powers by the emperor, and there was no indication that it was ever ratified or signed or sealed by the emperor. The fourth, the Japan-Korea Annexation Treaty was signed on August 22, 1910. This treaty was signed when Japan's military police took over Korea's administrative and judicial policies. At that time, a massive Japanese military troops were disposed throughout the Seoul area. A claim for invalidity of this treaty is based on the following, such as the first, instead of the national seal or royal seal, which was generally used for authorizing general administration methods, were improperly marked in the royal edict promulgating annexation. The second, there was no written signature by the Korean Emperor Sunjong. Third, it was improperly represented by the Japanese general, whose position was created based upon the invalid Protectorate Treaty of 1905. The Sunjong, the last emperor of Korea, left his last word to the Minister of Royal Palace on his deathbed by saying that Korea was forced to sign the Annexation Treaty without his genuine will, and this treaty was proclaimed arbitrarily by Japan along with Korean collaborators. Therefore, this treaty must be nullified. Korea and Japan have conflicting views on the effect of Japan-Korean Annexation Treaty of 1910, under which Korea entered 35 years of Japanese rule, and such effect is highly related to the grounds of Japanese ruling of Korea under international law. This issue is to remain unresolved until the signing of the Treaty on Basic Relations between Republic Korea and Japan in 1965. From that time on, the issue of effects of the Annexation Treaty and the legality of Japanese rule over Korea still remain much of a problem between the two countries from the historical and international legal perspective.